We speak. Our words. We listen.
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 Spectrum Voices Conversation is sponsored by coldpack.co.uk for practitioners using cryotherapy, osteopaths, chiropractors, physiotherapists. They produce a cold pack which has your details printed on the pack and reminds your patients about you for referrals. If you use our website as an end user, everything that you spend on that website goes directly to the charity Autistic Association to support the work of Autistic Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Harry's Facebook for Sunday the 30th of November 2025, St Andrew's Day. The first post, which is from Aurora Consulting, who are based in Scotland, a disability service business consultant. Aurora is an autistic-owned business offering organisations bespoke training and consulting. And they've shared the following. This is a wee story about autistic determination and how I learned that I am in charge of me. I'm sitting in my art class after lunch. It's the 30th of November 1992. It's standard grade art, and the less talented of us generally get left to crack on with things, leaving a lot of time for chat and relaxing. A girl called Emma and I are talking, and the subject of vegetarians comes up. I'd been considering becoming vegetarian ever since I'd heard it was even a thing. Emma argues that vegetarians can't be healthy. I argue they could. It's all friendly. Emma and I are on good terms. And eventually one of us suggests a bet. A bet that I would be vegetarian for 1 month and would see how healthy I was after that. And that, dear readers, is how I became veggie. It was genuinely something I wanted to do, but I had no idea if I could make that decision. I needed a push, a reason to go ahead, and a friendly bet was apparently the thing that would make it so. My family had no notice, but those of you who know me well know I am nothing if not determined. I'd made that bet, I was going to stick to it. It didn't go down well. The number of veggie options available in 1992 were nowhere as near as plentiful as they are today, and I worked with my lovely home economics teacher to make sure I was getting enough nutrients. My home ec teacher wasn't convinced of the wisdom of my actions either, but she liked a challenge and was keen to see how I'd get on. Vegetarians in my wee town were few and far between. She hadn't taught many. She even told me that if I wanted to pass home economics, I had to cook some non-veggie meals. They sometimes got passed on to my chemistry teacher, as his was the class after home economics. After the Christmas holidays, we decided I'd won the bet and had a good laugh, and I decided I liked being vegetarian, so never went back. This is absolutely not a post encouraging others to become veggie too. It's a completely personal choice, and it's not going to be right for everyone. I'm also one of those veggies who happily prepares meat for other people. But this post is about autistic determination. So many people telling me it was a bad idea. So much pressure to just buy the tuna sandwich I previously enjoyed. So many people telling me I couldn't do it. So I did. And that's how I learned that I was in charge of me, not anyone else. I am so grateful for Emma for making that bet with me. I don't think either of us knew how life-changing it would be. And the picture of me is enjoying some Ethiopian veggie food last year and thoroughly enjoying it.
I think my experience of autism is different, but sharing something. When I was very young, possibly 10, I was exposed to farming and the market where the animals were sold that would then be eaten. Rabbits, chickens, turkeys, these kinds of things, and the conditions that they were kept in when they were being sold at this Saturday market. That made me inquire as a young autistic boy, with all that overwhelming smell around it, about the meat, and I decided to become vegetarian at 10 years old, which was okay at home. But then I went to boarding school, and the determination came in when I was bullied, because I was told by the 18-year-olds that the reason that they weren't getting enough meat or whatever in their diet was because I had come as a vegetarian. So that carried on for some time, and I continued to be vegetarian, being bullied about it. But eventually it all stopped, and I had stood up for myself. But I had come to a slightly different feeling in my head, that it wasn't necessary to be vegetarian. It was necessary to be kind to animals and to reduce the amount of meat I had in my diet and find other ways. So for the rest of my life, I've not been vegetarian, but I've been a whole food diet person with lots and lots of different types of food. And just sticking to something because you're told not to, I think, is one of the detriments that come with autism, rather than one of our credits. I understand what Aurora Consulting is saying about having the strength to stick to our guns, but sometimes we stick to our guns when the motivation for sticking to our guns isn't logical.
It's an education, isn't it? An education in lifestyle options and choices. You know, you can do things when you're a teenager or a young person, then you'll change maybe a decade later or 5 years later. Or you'll just continue with it because it stays with you and it's for you. But exploration and self-determination, which I think is the theme of this post, is something worth considering, you know, because very often we get caught in the trap of expectations and normativity.
I like what Robbie's saying in the text, and I think this was actually said in the post as well, is it shouldn't be imposed on anyone else. Just because you've made a decision, you know, like you're vegetarian, you shouldn't impose on others. And I've seen that happen, not face to face, but I've seen it happen in media, for instance. You know, that I'm vegetarian, I'm good, and if you're a meat eater, you're bad, you're part of the problem. And I think that's what caused the animosity between people. I mean, there's lots of vegetarians that I know that it's not necessarily about the ethics of the meat process and the meat trade and slaughtering of animals, although they'll have sympathy towards it. It's just more to what they like, and they feel they should have the choice to do that and without being criticised, as long as they don't criticise others.
I'm sceptical. I've not come across a situation where somebody who's vegetarian has tried to impose it on other people. Where I have come across people being ridiculed for being vegetarian and found difficult, I think it's way in the other direction in general society. But if you are saying that people speak out against the cruelty that happens in regular farming that we all try to pretend isn't there, then yes, they can come across as political. They are making a political statement that they believe that the farming practices that we have are cruel. And even with the best will in the world, that's true. They are cruel. I don't see these radical vegetarians personally. I see them characterised in the right-wing press, and I don't see the reality of it.
Is this a situation where meat eating is seen as normal and everything else is seen as different?
Possibly so, Ray, because my experience at school was that I just wanted not to eat meat, and the interpretation of the people around me was that because I was doing that, it was affecting them in some way. And it affects people in two ways. They see somebody making a moral stand about the cruelty that happens in farming, and they are unwilling to make that link themselves, so they feel criticised, and they come against vegetarians. They blame them because they don't want to hear that message. In the text, Robbie says that there was an individual that tried to impose vegetarianism on him, and he also grew up with having religion imposed upon him. And he does believe that some farming practices are unnecessarily cruel.
The next post is from Blue Sky Learning. It's a mental health service. We support neurodivergent individuals globally with coaching, counselling and consulting services, and they're based in Canada. And they shared the following. Are you an autistic individual who feels like some social situations are like navigating a maze with no map. Perhaps you overthink every conversation in your head, wondering what could have went differently. This overthinking is your brain trying to process complex social information and predict outcomes in environments that aren't always intuitive. What may seem minor to others can feel overwhelming, exhausting, or stressful. Some common signs of autistic overthinking in social situations include rehearsing conversations before or during interactions, analysing every word, gesture, or facial expression, worrying about how others perceive you, over-planning responses or what to say next, second-guessing your words or actions, struggling to initiate conversation or respond spontaneously, hyper-focusing on social rules or expectations, ruminating on past interactions or mistakes, and avoiding social situations due to anxiety or anticipation or judgment. These patterns are not flaws. They are adaptive strategies your brain uses to make sense of a social world that doesn't always accommodate neurodivergent thinking. At Blue Sky Learning, our neurodiversity affirming therapists and coaches help you navigate social overthinking, build confidence, and create practical strategies that honour your brain's way of processing information without shame or self-blame. Together, we can shift from why can't I just be normal to how can I engage socially in a way that feels safe and manageable for me. You can book a free 20-minute consult at the website shared, or you can send an email to the email address shared. We also offer consulting for inclusive workplaces and schools.
This is an intro. I just wonder how they actually do it. I suppose I'd have to go to their site and read into what they're offering as practical strategies that honour the brain's way of processing information without shame or self-blame. But I do identify a lot with these common signs.
Robbie shares on the post, support is generic with social worker budgeting the autistic persons on money. And also he says, my anxiety is based on lack of self-esteem due to lifetime of negativity towards me.
I think that's what's referred to as adaptive strategies to, early trauma.
What stands out to me, while I was reading it, it just described me in so many ways. The thing, every now and again, I think of a mistake, something that's probably minor in the grand scheme of things, or no doubt will be, but it haunts you. I said the wrong thing to someone, and not as something that was insulting to someone, but basically I said the wrong thing which embarrassed me for asking it or saying it. But as far as I'm aware, it didn't cause too much impact on the other person. But it was all about me actually saying it. Something simple, but it haunts you.
Is there an implication in this post that autistic people are intuitive or respond to intuitive environments? Because I've highlighted this sentence here, which was me. This overthinking is your brain trying to process complex social information and predict outcomes in environments that aren't always intuitive. So, who's intuitive here?
My take on it would be that, to be intuitive is to be able to spot a pattern, to be able to take the data in and notice the pattern, to be able to then predict what's going to happen. And in social situations, in the past, before I kind of got some sort of dots filled in for me, I would be trying to spot the pattern in a social situation, but I hadn't understood that a person could have bad intentions or could just really not want things to go well between us or whatever it was. And so it would be really hard for me to spot a pattern if it meant somebody was coming from a place that's just really hard, really not conceivable for me. Quite enjoys hurting people, that kind of thing.
I agree with Nicola. I think her description of what intuition is really lovely. For me, intuition is your brain working things out unconsciously in a way that you can't really get a handle on, but the results to you are real. But the results come in a feeling about somebody that then goes into a thought rather than being able to logically think it through. And I think the possibility is that autistic people are slightly more intuitive. They are dealing with things at that level more than regular folk, because regular folk are also dealing with the social interaction and the social patterns instead. They're doing it in a different way. And there's a link here to empathy. People often use the word intuition when what they're doing is they're empathizing with somebody similar to themselves, and therefore they can predict them, and they call that intuition. If there's the double empathy paradigm where autistic people empathize easily with other autistic people and can predict them from patterns because we know each other, we know what it feels like, and the same for non-autistic people, they empathize with each other following the patterns of expectation. It could be that we also have to learn an intuition that goes with this other group that are different to us, and that's a difficulty. But in my experience, often it's autistic people that have compensated the whole of their lives to learn both sets of skills, and it seems like a social slur on us when we are described as less empathetic or lacking the intuitive understanding of a social situation, because many of us have had to negotiate both situations so much. And what Teresa responds to my words by saying, yes, Jules, but the flow isn't there with the others. The flow isn't there for us.
The next post is from Embrace Autism, mental health service, science website, diagnostic centre, research-based information empowerment by autistic for autistics, embrace your advantages, based in Canada. And what they've shared is the following. They say that unlike most non-autistics, autistic people can switch between local and global processing as needed, and the following post explains what this actually means. It's part of a local and global processing autism paper, which was published on 9th of April 2021, but was last updated November 29th, 2025. So they say, first, let's do a quick test to see if you use local or global processing. And it shows a picture, and it says, take a quick look at the image below, and then scroll past the image until you cannot see it anymore. If the image is now out of view, describe what you saw. If you said words like a beach or a vacation, then you're a global processor. You are a person who turns pieces of information into a meaningful whole. If, instead, you said words like a chair, an umbrella, the ocean, a sailboat, a ball, or sand, you are a local processor, a person who focuses on the details. And, as it turns out, autistic people tend to be local processors. In a paper from 2006, Laurent Montron et al. Described a local processing preference as one of the 8 enhanced perpetual abilities of autistics. And this begins a 9-part series on enhanced perceptual functioning in autism, with this post focusing on Principle 1 of the revised Enhanced Perceptual Functioning EPF model. And what it says is, the global processing style refers to attending to the Gestalt, an organisation whole that is perceived as more than the sum of its parts, of a stimulus or processing information in a more general and big picture way. Whereas local processing style refers to attending to the specific details of a stimulus or processing information in a narrower and more detailed oriented way.
Okay, I think it's hokum, but it might have a grain of truth in it. That's a problem for me. I've seen these kind of tests often, and you put them across the whole population and different people say different things. But it looks to me as though we're jumping to something before there's been a lot more work and study on it. I'm normally really willing to accept this contributor, but there's something about the science here that doesn't ring for me. There's something about it. Whenever you get into these sciences that are about how humans work psychologically, we have to be incredibly careful. We're classifying people. When I look at that picture, I am likely to give both sets of information. I'm likely to also look at how the question is framed. And if it says, what was it you saw? I would give the global. And in other ways of phrasing, I might pick out the individuals afterwards. So I might actually say, here's the global picture, followed by here are the details that I remember from it, to then support my assertion of the global. I'm concerned if autistic people are put in these categories of details only people, when so often we are the global picture people as well. It seems to me that different incidents in laboratory conditions create different outcomes.
You know what? I can do both. I suspect we all can do both. I would be more likely to say, if we're going to generalize like this post is, autistic people can do both. I slow down at the start and I get all of the details before I make the big global assumption. And it helps me enormously in the work that I do. And like Jules, I'm not really into, it's like you're in first year university psychology class and they ask you if you see an old woman or whatever the other thing is.
I'm picking up from what Robbie has said as well. He says generalizing is harmful. Now, I'm sure that there's some kind of work that's gone on behind this. And who the hell am I to criticize scientists who think long and hard and put their studies together? However, when these pieces of information that they're still working on and still getting their heads around come out here into the public sphere, they can be dangerous to us.
Thank you, everyone. It's been a great conversation as always. And thanks for people that have shared those posts that we've talked about tonight and the topics within them. This is Harry's Facebook for Sunday the 30th of November 2025, which is here every Sunday from 5:55 PM, 7 PM UK time. And I look forward to doing the same next week.
Spectrum Voices Conversation, Harry's Facebook page, the 555, is sponsored by colpack.co.uk. If you're a practitioner in the field that needs cryotherapy for your patients, use colpack.co.uk because they support the work here at Autistic Radio. If you need a cold pack for your own use, colpack.co.uk, purchases on that site come directly to us in full, supporting the work here at Autistic Radio.
Spectrum Voices Conversation is an Autistic Association production for autisticradio.com. If you have something to share with us, if you need a voice, you can make different kinds of programs with us. You can make a 10-minute short, or you can join us for a podcast to talk about a subject that is dear to your heart or something you think needs a wider audience. We have an open door policy for divergent views. We do not necessarily agree with everything that we share on our Facebook pages or the words expressed in our podcast. There are a lot of different divergent views which we are trying to allow get aired so that people can see things from different people's vantage points. We hope that you will join that conversation. Contact us through any of our links, Facebook, by email, directly to us.